started and then Justin will. Again, thank you for having us here. We're very happy to be here. I had the honor of working for a couple of years at school here at Rowland Hall here in Salt Lake City. And the Rotary Club always gave generous scholarships and honored students for their service. So thank you for instilling the value of service in young people and people of all ages. We appreciate that. So we're here to talk about the Eccles Theater. And this may be information that you've heard before many times, but as the theater is growing, both physically and organizationally, new elements are constantly changing. So we wanted to provide an update on but also on what is going on behind the scenes. It'll stop trying to get me to turn the mic. Most of you probably have heard about this theater referred to as the Utah Performing Arts Center, or UPAC. Now that we have had a generous donation from the Eccles family, the theater will now be known as the Eccles Theater, the George S. and Dolores Doré Eccles Theater. So if you hear of it pronounced or mentioned as the UPAC, you can now correct people and say, no, it's actually the Eccles Theater. It's a state-of-the-art performance venue in the heart of Salt Lake City, designed by world-renowned architects, Pelli Clarke Pelli Architects, and the local firm HKS Architects. There are two performance spaces. You've probably heard a lot about the 2,500-seat performance hall, which will house touring Broadway productions, touring concerts, comedy performances, family entertainment, as well as some other larger local productions. But we do also have a 220-seat black box theater. And the black box you'll see an image of later in the presentation is a flexible venue that can be used for a variety of purposes for different arts organizations or even community events. And the vision behind the project is to bring another level of extraordinary arts and entertainment in an extraordinary venue and build extraordinary community connections. We're very lucky to live in a city with amazing arts programs already, and we don't want to take away from any of the other arts organizations in the city. We simply want to build on the amazing growth potential that we have in this area. Mayor Becker is a mayor that really supports the arts and understands the power of the arts, and two of the items in his livability agenda are to build audiences for the arts and to cultivate the creative communities that we have here. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later when we go into the community engagement side of the theater. But those were very strong in the basis of starting this year. So Justin's going to take over and talk a little bit about the physical structure.
Thank you very much again, and just echo Catherine's comments and gratitude for sharing with us this time. I can say this project has been the focus of just about all of my work with the Redevelopment Agency over the last 4 years. So it's a real joy to see it coming out of the ground and be able to share with you some of those details. I could be a little bit long-winded about this, and I hope I will not, because I bore my wife to tears with details about steel and things like that as the project is being built. But just to orient you to the site, I'm sure many of you are familiar with its location downtown. It's on Block 70. That's that block between 100 and 200 South, Main Street, and State Street. And the selection of this particular location for the Performing Arts Center was significant in a number of different ways, and really led to, I think, what would be a very spectacular project that distinguishes itself from other performing arts venues. When we're working with the Redevelopment Agency, our mission is really to eliminate blight. So somebody might ask, well, this is not exactly a blighted corner in downtown Salt Lake City, especially given the investment that's taken place. So why would we be focusing so much activity and investment in this location? And I think what we need to recognize is certainly, and give credit to, the investment that has been made in City Creek and what a contribution that's made to our downtown. We also have the basis of transportation, other cultural assets immediately adjacent to this, all within walking distance. And that is unique. We went around and planning the theater, we looked at other theaters, and it's very typical in this day and age for a performing arts venue to be built almost in a greenfield setting, because it takes up so much space, and there are intricacies with loading in and loading out of the performances. That for us to be able to locate this in downtown provides us an opportunity to leverage the significant investment in City Creek, create a connection down to Galvin Plaza to the south, and then other cultural institutions like Capitol Theater, for example, that's on block 69. We also have a tremendously walkable block here. You'll notice that it's bifurcated by Regent Street and then Orpheum Avenue. And we've recently acquired and demolished this building here, and we'll open up this block and really increase its permeability. So I think all of that speaks to building upon the activity that's been driven to this part of downtown by City Creek and other investments. Certainly on the block too, with Newmont University moving in and the Walker Center coming down a major remodel. This is a great opportunity to capitalize on that investment level of activity that's here in downtown and just an update on the construction schedule. One of the great things about being here in 2015 is that we can now say we complete next year. And that is the case. Our scheduled completion date is June 30th of 2016. However, we're allowing a little bit of leeway in the schedule so that the first Broadway performance might not take place until November 1st. And it's very important. You can imagine all of the consequences of not having a theater open in time for a production like Wicked or Lion King. So we're very cautious to schedule our completion in June, allow us some leeways to turn the building on and stage a few other performances before we have the major shows, the big shows like Wicked and Lion King coming to town. And this is a shot of progress probably a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that strikes me about this project is just how rapidly it's coming out of the ground. I can explain why that is the case. This area here, this is all steel that's being erected, and it's a little bit unusual. Typically, you build a project from the ground up, north, south, east, west, in all directions. The complicating factor that we have here, I'm sure you've noticed that there's an office tower that's under development immediately adjacent to our site. So we have a great contractor. I think much credit is due to Layton Construction, who's building this project, and Open Construction, who's building 111 Main. They're really coordinating their activities day to day so that our erection of steel in this area, beneath which, or above which, sorry, the office tower will be built, is able to take place now. And then we're going to complete the rest of our work around that. So we need to build up the north side of the building, allow them to build out over us, and then we can complete the rest of the site. When we engaged Pelli Clarke Pelli Architects to design the theater, one of the things that we really challenged them to do is identify a way to integrate a new performing arts venue in our downtown so that it really meshes well with, it fits in to the fabric of downtown, but then also generates activity and captures the activity that's already on Main Street. And we think, in our opinion, that they've done this quite well. There are a number of features that I point out about the facade of the building. They've utilized some of the precedents in Salt Lake City. There are a number of precedents where balconies such as this exist. And these will be publicly accessible spaces. And this one in particular, cantilevers out over the sidewalks. You can imagine on a performance night when you have hundreds of people gathered in this space and up here, how much that might contribute to the vitality of the street life, even though that's several stories above Main Street. It's a great place to see and be seen, and people watch what's going on Main Street. And then there's a rhythm in the fenestration of the building. You notice these vertical lines, and there's some horizontal ones as well. And they've picked up on and captured the same fenestration and articulation of the Tribune building to the south, and really carried that through as a transition from an historic building to the new modern office tower. I'll show you another perspective. This is looking north on Main Street, and here you can see how the office tower will cantilever over the theater. And this is us speaking of us needing to build out this part of the project first before we can build out this part so that they're able to build the office tower above. And more on that in a moment. But on that particular shot, there are a couple other features to mention. One is this is a bistro. So we'll have a small cafe space, and our vision is that there'll be outdoor dining. And then immediately to the north here, one of the nice things about this site is that there's an opportunity for a natural transition between the grade of the Main Street sidewalk, which falls away as you move to the south, into the lobby. And that's really significant. That's another advantage that we have as compared to other sites. You'll have the opportunity to come in directly off of the sidewalk in Main Street into the lobby, and then as opposed to having to go up a set of stairs or in an elevator, you can transition directly into the orchestra level. So The result is that it'll be a very accessible experience for the customer to come in and out off of Main Street. And that not only benefits performance night, but also day in, day out. How do we engage the street when there's not a performance in the theater? And one of the significant features, you'll notice this facade of the building, if you look closely at it, it's missing something. It's missing doors. Typically a performing arts center, when it's not open, if you look at the Rose Wagner, it'll have a glazed facade that is just a glazed facade, that's it. These doors pivot and move off to the side. So it's fully 70 feet in frontage of this building has pivot doors that open wide, so that we'll have an open air transition between Main Street and the lobby. And this is an elevated staircase that starts at grade and then gets above grade next to the bistro. Thought process being is that that could be a great space for informal performances and outdoor dining and other public gathering. When we're talking about the theater, we're really only talking about half the story of the development that's happening on this block, and the other half, of course, is the development of the 111 main office tower. Just a couple words about that project. We are really joined together with them, not only in schedule, their delivery date, June 2016, is identical to ours, but also we share a lot of amenities. The entrance, for example, to the office tower off of Regent Street, where parking for both the theater and the office tower will be located. Their tenants will actually walk through the lobby of the theater and then transition into the lobby of the office tower. The office tower lobby itself, this is a soaring 35-foot high glass structure, and there's a particular structural type that allows this to happen. Both the cantilever here and supporting all four sides of this building is all accomplished through what's called the hat truss. And the hat truss is 1,600 tons of steel. That's 380 feet above the ground at the very top of the building. And that will support all four sides of the building. And that will be a very dramatic feature. I'm not aware of any other precedent where that's been achieved. And it really speaks to the world-class design of the office tower and how well it integrates with the theater. The other thing, of course, that comes with some side effects, one of which was, anyone who's been downtown for the last few months noticed a lot of pile driving. So just a stat to bear in mind, 8 miles of steel is driven in the ground to support the core of the office tower, all the way from the hat truss, transferred like an eye right down the core of the office tower and down through those piles that are driven a total of 8 miles into the ground. It's funny, I was talking to one of the superintendents for the office tower site, and he said that one of their flaggers recently had somebody come by and said, you know, that pile driving, it took a part of my soul. So hopefully we're past that phase. And the outcome, this is some visuals of our, we call it the Grand Lobby or the Winter Garden. And the term Winter Garden refers to this concept of bringing the outdoors indoors in a grand space. And we've seen in other buildings that were designed by Pelli Clarke Pelli that they've done that with. In the case of Dayton, Ohio, they actually incorporated 70-foot tall palm trees, 3 or 4 of them, actually growing within the lobby in Dayton, Ohio. It's pretty interesting to see. Of course, those palm trees died and had to be replaced with fake ones, but they seem very real. Here, we don't have as much of an opportunity to integrate that, but what we're doing is bringing in air and light. Again, with those pivot doors along the facade, this is looking to the west. And here, the other perspective is you're looking north from the bistro space. Those doors are open. This is a soaring space at 72 feet from the ceiling down to the lobby itself. This shows some tables and chairs in the bistro space. But what we envision, again, is that dining will take place here in the lobby when this is not open for a performance. And that the dimensions, one of the other really unique features of this project is that the dimensions of this lobby are based around the identical dimensions of the black box rehearsal space. So Catherine mentioned that we'll have a black box space accommodate 220 people as well as a performance. We'll be able to accommodate the same size and scale performance in this space. And that could be anything from a formal stage production, a ticketed event, could be a private function, could be a gathering such as this or a wedding, or what could potentially happen more frequently, or free and deeply discounted performances that could happen almost spontaneously to really enhance the vitality again of Main Street. This is a look at the interior of the hall, and one of the things that struck me when I went and visited with our design team the project that Pelli Clarke Pelli had designed in Dayton was the overwhelming sense of intimacy that you have walking into the theater itself. You think a hall of 2,500 seats is going to seem very large, and in that case, it was a really embracing environment. It felt very theatrical. I was there on Wednesday morning. There was no performance. It was a dark day, but you felt that you were in a very special place just walking into the hall itself. And I'm certain that they'll achieve the same outcome here in Salt Lake with 3 different tiers of balconies. One of the consequences of this is that the farthest seat in the top tier is, I think it's about 100 feet, even less than that, from that seat to the front of the stage. It's a very intimate experience, great sight lines. It'll feel like a very small hall. I happen to question whether or not we could fit all 2,500 seats into the theater, just seeing it being built and concrete being formed. It boggles my mind that we could fit that many seats in that small a space, but it will be done so in a very efficient manner. The walls of the hall will be colored and textured in a way that is intended to evoke the sense of Utah's canyon country. And then, in addition, the ceiling itself is intended to appear as a star field. So, really, the sense that we're trying to achieve with this design is that you're in a place, a very special place in Utah, like Bryce Canyon, and perhaps gazing out at the night sky. So it'll be a theatrical space to be in, even if the performance is not taking place on the stage. Catherine mentioned the multi-use black box. This is the space that can be used flexibly for supporting local arts groups, private events, any number of smaller scale performances, lecture series, pre and post event. Perhaps some of the artists who are on stage might have the opportunity to come and speak to an audience about a particular subject. So that's one of the other activity generators of this facility. And then on Regent Street, getting back to the site itself and why we selected this particular location. Regent Street has a bit of a dubious history, I know, and had not been a real haven of activity over the last decade or so with the movement of the printing press businesses elsewhere. But we really view this as a tremendous opportunity to capitalize on, again, the activity up at City Creek. Just one thing to note, recently the city did a pedestrian count at the intersection of 100 South and Regent Street, and that was compared to other mid-block crossings. We have several of them in our downtown, and that was actually the busiest one. So there's already a high level of pedestrian traffic in this location. And then if you couple that with the 2,500 people who will be coming and going to the theater, about 180 to 200 nights a year, and 4,000 office workers coming and going into the office tower, you get the sense that there's a tremendous opportunity to create more activity here on Regent Street. And we'll be building upon that with some additional retail. This is a rather small scale space. And another one up to the north. Of course, we need to accommodate for offices for the operator of the theater, but we'll have a few retail spaces. PRI, who's affiliated with the ownership of the office tower, owns the garage immediately across from us, and we understand that they're going through the thought process for planning some additional retail within the ground floor of their building. And this image conveys the type of street life and activity that we'd like to see take place. Of course, we'll maintain vehicular traffic. It's a two-way street, and will be. We have to load in and load out for performances. But this is what it may look like if the street were shut down. Of course, we take a liberty of removing the rather large parking structure here, just to get a perspective. But this shows maybe a street festival, an arts festival, some kind of other gathering that could take place on Regent Street and allow vehicular traffic to still happen at either end, access to the parking garages. And then this is the loading dock for the theater itself. This is the garage door. The mid-block connection I described earlier connects to the main street. And we envision that this this loading dock could become a very active public plaza to which we could tie in some of the other retailers and small businesses like Evis who are already on this block. And then just getting back to the original feasibility study that was done when we undertook the project, here's some stats to bear in mind. The calculation was made that $9.4 million in ongoing economic impact would stem just from the operations of the theater itself. So this is the projected economic impact on an annual basis just from the activities of the theater. That includes all the costs associated with operating the theater, getting stagehands, local stagehands, those coming in, actors, actresses coming in from out of town, as well as visitation from out of state, out of the county and the region to come downtown, and all the ancillary spending that takes place with that type of activity. If you add to it the office tower, it brings the total to 14.8 projected annual economic impact by both projects combined. And between 150 and 168 permanent jobs, that's in addition to the 2,200 or so associated with just the one-time boost in construction activity. And what we really envision is that, most importantly, that this would be an asset not just to the residents of Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County, but can really become another draw regionally, whether that's throughout the Mountain West or even beyond. And projecting that 74,000 new visitors will come to downtown Salt Lake City just for the theater itself on an annual basis, and 49% from outside Salt Lake County. So that's where things stand from the projection of economic impact. And I know Catherine has some more words to share about some of the public engagement.
We want to leave some time for questions. I just want to touch a little bit on community engagement and involvement. I mentioned earlier that we wanted to focus not just on this project, but in the city overall on developing audiences and cultivating our creative communities. And the way we see that happening in the theater, for audience development, we want to make the arts accessible. So we actually have an arts accessibility program in place where a certain percentage of tickets will be available at no or low cost to communities, and we will be working with our operator, who's the Salt Lake County Center for the Arts, who will be operating the theater, and figuring out just how this takes place and how we work with the community groups to distribute those tickets. But we also know that access doesn't just mean ticket cost. There are a lot of other barriers to attending theater, transportation and time. So we're working operationally. We have a board of the theater that is working on how to put structures in place that we can really make this an accessible venue for audiences, not just in handing out tickets, but in actually getting new audiences to the theater. We also want to work with the school systems to make sure that we get young people to the theater. Recently, the NEA released a study that was the study for public participation in the arts, and what they found was attendance at an arts event or at a museum as a young person, as a child, was 4 times more likely to influence future participation in the arts, and that takes out of the picture anything related to education or demographics. So if we can we can get more young people to the theater, we're building audiences for the future. And cultivation of creators. As I mentioned, we have a really strong creative community. We want to involve other groups in this theater. We want to work with other local arts organizations in the Black Box, in the Winter Garden. We want to work with some of the students at the University of Utah and Westminster who are studying music and theater and art, and find ways for them to participate in the theater and work as a partnership. So we'll be working on that operationally with the Center for the Arts and with the board of the theater. We also will be holding a grand opening. The first Broadway performances will happen around November, and we anticipate that in October we'll have a grand opening that's not just one big high ticket gala fundraiser, although I'm sure we'll have one of those. But we'll have, we'll have about 2 weeks of public performances. Some will be, the majority of them will be free performances. So we'll show the utilization of all the spaces. We'll show what's possible in the theater, and bring groups downtown, bring audience groups and arts groups to use the facility in all of its many capacities. So you can learn more. We have a website, www.magictheater.com. There's also a website for the tower, which is SLC.com. And on that website is actually a camera that is on the roof of the building across the street, so you can see real-time updates on the construction process. And then if you're having any issues with noise or anything with the construction itself, hopefully with the pile driving done, you won't have that anymore. But there's also a hotline you can call if you wanted to ask questions specific to the construction process. And of course, Justin and I have our cards here, and you can feel free to contact us anytime if you have any questions. But that's all for our presentation. We just wanted to open it up for any questions from you. Well, the Capitol Theater is still a beautiful performance space. The Capitol Theater has about 1,800 seats, a little more than 1,800 seats, so it's a slightly different size venue. And we see that many of the groups that perform in the Capitol will continue to perform in the Capitol. Our operator is the same. The County Center for the Arts will be operating, they not only will operate the Eccles Theater, but they will continue to operate the Capitol, Broadway Hall, and the Rose Wagner. So they are working constantly with all of the different groups to make sure that everyone is in the venue that best fits their needs. Yes.
The cost of the project and private funds, and how is it financed? Sure.
So the overall project budget is $116 million. We established a private fundraising goal of $27 million at the outset of the project. And through commitments, Catherine mentioned, from the Eccles Foundation and several other generous contributions that we received, we're actually exceeding $27 million. We're $27.5 million, which is great news, especially at this stage of construction. And then as far as how the project is financed, the entire $116 million cost is covered by 2 bond issues. So the Salt Lake City Redevelopment Agency, we issued bonds of $64.7 million. And the remainder, I think it's 51.3, is in the form of Salt Lake City sales tax revenue bonds. And the repayment source on both of those bonds is property tax increment only. There's no other source from the city's general fund or increase in taxes or other allocation. The RDA currently is utilizing a significant portion, or deploying a significant portion of its tax increment in the Central Business District project area towards debt service on improvements like the 500 West Park blocks and Delta Center, things of that nature, and Steiner Ice Sheet. And the maturity of those issues will have, as an agency, additional capital available. And so it seemed an opportune time for us to explore deploying that to invest in a facility such as this.
Yeah, I'm still kind of fuzzy on the number of theater seats downtown. Capitol Theater, this theater, there's over 4,000 seats. Been roughly correct. You're confident we can adequately use that many seats annually? Sounds like.
Although ideally we'd like to have the theater open every single night, performance every night. We know that performances, especially in the early years, will build the number of performances within the theater. So we won't have 2,500 seats to fill every single night, just as the Capitol doesn't have its full 1,800 seats. But we do see that we will have the shows that we bring in will have their own niche audience, so that we do feel confident that we'll be able to book shows in the space and attract the audiences.
My question is largely the same as what in particular have we been missing out on that you can identify, and what is it you're hoping to accomplish in terms of the evolution of the genre down there, the kinds of performances that might come in and so on?
So the question was, what are we missing out on in the arts? What did we not have before this theater that we're hoping that this theater will bring? Just one thing that we've talked about is having certain touring Broadway shows. We have MagicSpace Entertainment that brings Broadway touring shows here every year, and there are certain tiered shows that they are able to bring based on the seating capacity of the theaters. With a larger seating capacity, they can bring in a different level of equity actors, as well as a different technical ability. So some shows require larger backstage spaces that some of our existing venues don't have. So that's one thing that we will be able to do that we haven't in the past. But in terms of the other,
complex staging as well.
Yes, it's more the backstage. Yeah, the backstage elements, shows that require a larger backstage area, a bigger fly space. We'll be able to accommodate those shows. A lot of the shows will have a scaled down version that they can tour with that will go into smaller venues, but we're hoping to get the larger come in. In addition, we see this as a catalyst downtown. We have a lot of big blocks and we have a lot of beautiful venues that are separated. And we think this is centrally located enough that it'll be a connector so that we can actually use the theater to encourage people to explore more from block to block, from the Capitol to the theater to Gallivan Center. So we think that we'll be able to boost activity in general downtown. We've heard that there are some interested parties, but nothing has been made official this time.
What's happening to our ugly stepsister, Gateway Mall? And how do we avoid Gateway Mall from becoming white? I mean, it seems like everything is going.
Right, and that's part and parcel to the RDA's activities in our Depot District project area. The Gateway is a significant generator of tax increment, property tax increment in that project area. So the success, long-term success of that facility is definitely something that will have a huge impact and vary on our success as an RDA and what we can do. We haven't been in direct contact with the property owner. There were some articles published lately. Although we're a funding sponsor, we provide tax reimbursement to the actual owner of the facility. But I think what we, as an agency, are focused on will benefit the owner of that project long term, and then we also need to discuss particular needs of that property with the owner. But I can speak now to some of the activities that we have planned for property that we own. We have about 9.5 acres of property that's to the southwest of the Gateway itself. So west of the Rio Grande, 300 South connects between the Rio Grande and the intermodal hub or central station. And we own the majority of the block to the north of 300 South, the majority of the block to the south of 300 South. And that's sat in blighted and vacant condition, and it suffers from a lot of the criminal activity that other places do. So we're on the cusp of issuing RFPs to select developers. And what I expect is that we'll bring additional residential development, commercial development, the notion or concept of having a year-round public market active in either the Rio Grande building or one of the properties that a developer builds out when we offer it for sale. I think we'll contribute more activity to that region or that part of downtown. And hopefully that additional activity will bolster the Gateway. But I do think, I agree with you, I think that's something that we have to be very concerned about. For the reasons I stated and the overall impact that they can have. So,
I got the impression you said we're going to tear down the garage on Regent Street. So, what about the parking facilities and just getting people in and out of cars in and out of that area?
Right, that was probably the way I presented it, and we're actually not tearing the garage down. One of the images that I showed of Regent Street actually showed it was a perspective as if the garage had been removed, but we're relying upon it. It's an 1,100 stall garage on Regent Street. We're leasing 600 stalls, which we think would be adequate given other transportation modes people might take to get to the theater and other parking in that vicinity, with the Walker Center garage, the Gallivan Center garage, City Creek garage. But the Regent Street garage is going to remain and will be a vital part of our operations and office tower operations. Certainly. So the question about the air rights of the office tower, this is something that is the focus of a lot of attention, I can say. We, the RDA acquired property for the theater from PRI, who is actually the entity behind the development of the office tower. So you can imagine when you have two parties negotiating the sale of property, and the seller is also going to be the developer of the property, how complex those negotiations could be. So we spent months just around the table negotiating that issue, where those air rights would be. What I can say is that the teams, and particularly the architects, we have two world-class architects. Their architect is SOM out of San Francisco, and designed the new World Trade Center in Manhattan. So you sort of let the architects determine what's best for both projects. And ownership sort of sat back and let that unfold. And the outcome of which is that cantilever of the office tower actually extends 43 feet from their property line over the top of the theater. That's an air rights easement, so that's permanently occupiable space. It's an air right easement owned by the area. But that was a particularly thorny issue to negotiate, and I think the outcome is a great one. It's a cool project.
Well, we want to thank Justin and Catherine very much for an excellent presentation and enlightenment. We don't have to do this. It's exciting. Looking forward to the opening. Our book this week going to the Franklin Elementary School is entitled Martin and Mahalia, His Words, Her Songs. This has been signed by both of our presenters today, and we'll go to the Franklin School. Let me just remind you once again that we will be here next week, and given that, we now stand adjourned.